Today we're going to start our drawing of our art supply still life. We're going to all include a watercolor paint palette in our hand, and then you get to choose from a variety of art supplies to include in your still life. Remember, we're doing contour line drawings. Line is an element of art. We've learned about different types of line that we add to art to make it more interesting. But a line in art is a dot that takes a walk, and that's what we're doing today, is using lines to create our drawing. So what you're going to do is you're going to plan for your still life. We're tracing our objects and we're tracing our hand. So you want to see how you can fit these objects all together. And then you want to plan for additional items that you might want in the still life. What art supplies do you like to use? So, first step, let's all trace a palette. Your palette could be completely on the paper or it could hang off like mine. And I'm just going to take a pencil, and a contour is the outside edge. So one hand is holding the watercolor palette in place, and the other hand is tracing the outside edge. And look, I could even trace the inside edges here by going inside. But I'm missing some details. If I lift it up, I'm missing all of the paint in the inside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep my straight line by just tracing right along here. And that created that line. But I also, while I have it right next to it, I want to add the little square, the rectangle shapes for the paint. And I'm going to try to make it the same size. And it's not a perfect rectangle. And I'm drawing very light until I get it right. So if I make a mistake, that's okay. I have my eraser on my pencil that'll take care of that. Very light. And I'm just going to draw down here all of the rectangles for the different colors of paint. And then I left space here because that's where a paintbrush goes. So what I could do is I could just place my paintbrush right on there if I choose. That's where I want my paintbrush to be. And I'm going to trace around. This is kind of tricky. It wants to roll. But again, I'm tracing light until I get it right. And then I'm looking. It's kind of looking just like an oval. So what else do I need on my paintbrush? I need some additional lines on the inside to show the bristles, the hair of the brush, to show the metal where it starts and stops. And now it's looking much more like a paintbrush. I made a mistake, so I'm going to just make that pointy and erase. I didn't need to put my paintbrush there. I could have put a rectangle where the space for the paintbrush is, and I could have traced the paintbrush on another part of my picture. I'm looking, and the palette part where you would mix your paint, I see some lines, so I'm just going to add a couple lines here. And then I think that I have enough lines to show that this is a paint palette in my drawing. The next step I want to do is my hand. I'm going to put my hand on here, and I'm going to trace my hand on the still life. I'm going to go around right next to a pretty light, and then I'm going to try to capture the details after I draw the outside edge, the tracing part. So looking at my hand is missing some fingernails. So I'm going to add fingernails. Really light. And then I'm going to add lines on my fingers. So I see some lines for my knuckles. And I have a ring on, so I could draw that ring. just the outside edges. I'm looking at the lines that make up the ring. And then I'm thinking, what other supplies would I like to use? I could trace a few other supplies, maybe one or two. I have so many to choose from. I do like crayon. I like crayon with watercolor. So I'm gonna trace my hand holding a crayon. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna trace around the outside edge. When I bump into my fingers, I'm gonna jump over the finger, because the crayon's gonna be under my hand. And then I'm gonna go back and say, what lines do I need? I see a little line there. I see a squiggle line here to show that that's a crayon. And I'm gonna continue to place and trace lightly on my picture. Everybody will have a paint palette and a hand, and then you get to pick one or two additional art supplies to add in your still life. And the scissors I get to trace on the inside too, and I'm gonna lift up. Do I need any additional lines? Oh, I see that curve and a circle. I'm not coloring in with my pencil today because it's a contour line, just the outside. Now that I have my pencil, I'm gonna use my Sharpie to highlight all of the lines. I'm just putting Sharpie on all of the pencil lines. This is where I could fix mistakes that I've made with my pencil. And then I'm going to go back in with an eraser and erase any extra pencil. Now that everything's outlined in Sharpie, it's time to paint. I have my paint bucket here. Remember, you dip, wipe, and swipe. I'm gonna wake up my brown, and I'm painting my paint palette in the same order that I see here. So I'm gonna go right around and then squiggle in the middle. If it gets out of your lines, that's okay, because look how messy our real paint palette is. Cleaning in between the colors, and I'm gonna go right around. And then wake up blue. And I could see my fingers got some green on the mixing part of our palette. And look, there's actually green on here. And while I have my blue ready, I want my scissors to be blue today. And I keep my brush on its tippy toes, a good hair day, right around the outside. Try my best to stay in the lines. And then I'm going to clean my brush, wake up green, rub it gently, and then I'm just going to, and I love my green paint brushes, so I'm going to put my green paintbrush handle here. And then I'm going to clean my brush, wipe it off, wake up yellow. And then I'm going to make my crayon yellow. And I'm leaving my hand because you're gonna pick a people color for that. So I'm gonna go down and do orange, and clean it, and red. Clean it, and then black. Perfect for the blades of my scissors and the metal part of my brush. And then I'm going to clean my brush, put some bristles on here. And then I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to get the people colors for my hand. Now that I have my people colors, I'm going to look to see, and if I wanted to test, I could test it on a scrap piece of paper. And I'm going to just, I think that's pretty close. And I see my nails are the same color, leave a little white at the top. a little bit more pinkish, and then I can pick a different color for my hand, and I'm going to color around the outside so I know where to start and stop. This crayon will keep your hands really clean. Broken crayon still color, so it'll resist the watercolor. And make sure it goes right off my page. Color it in your best coloring, up and down, taking steps. And around the outside, color it in. And now that I have the basics colored in, I could add with my paintbrush if I wanted to have more colors mixed over on my paint palette. A little bit off the page to make it more interesting. Add some of that yellow mixed with the green. Then I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to wake up my color, and we're going to splatter paint. Just going to tap, 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 and then clean my brush. Tap, 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 and splatter paint. And then we're done. Make sure you clean your brush, hair side up. And now you have an Art Supply still life.